What's up, guys? It's Darian, and I'm back with Darian the Dev. And today I want to talk to you guys about my very first technical interview. Alright, so my very first technical interview was nerve-wracking, to say the least, and I failed it. So I'm just gonna let you guys know right off rip that this is gonna be a story about growth, about learning, about disappointment. Ooh, so many things, man. I'll try to keep it as short and sweet as possible. I interviewed with a startup company here in Detroit, and they were looking for a junior developer. I didn't know what to expect. I was familiar with technical interviews because we did a lot of practice in my coding bootcamp to get prepared for technical interviews. However, I had done stuff like Hacker Rank and practice problems, going back and reviewing old lessons and just looking online, the most common technical questions that a new developer might get asked in the interview. But there's really no certain way to be sure of what the question is going to be that you get. I hope that somebody can learn from my mistakes and maybe just be more prepared than I was. So I will say this, I don't think that I was unprepared in the sense that I didn't do any preparation for this first technical interview, because honestly, once I got set up for the interview and it was on my calendar, I actually got way more kind of like anxious, nervous, not afraid. I wasn't afraid, but it was just the reality that my first technical interview is here. Like, I'm gonna be writing code for somebody who's gonna be judging me on the spot and what I know, and I'm gonna be actually taking all the stuff that I've been learning in boot camp. And if I hit a wall, I have an instructor to go to and ask her questions, and she can help me out and kind of like course correct me in my thinking. But now I need to actually go out into the real world and actually like write code, and this can make or break this job, and I'll either get hired or I won't, or this could get awkward. All these different things are like kind of like running through my head. What we had practiced in coding bootcamp was like whiteboard challenges. So I would, literally do practice problems with my instructor in a room one-on-one. She would give me a problem and I would solve it on the board. That's not what this was. So in this particular technical interview, I was asked to use a platform called CodePen or CoderPen, I think. I'm not sure. I'll look it up and I'll leave the description down below. I'll leave the link in the description down below for you guys to go check it out. But it was basically an online editor that allowed the interviewer to actually see your screen as you're solving the problem. And I was on the phone with the guy who was interviewing me, and I had my computer in front of me, and we pretty much got straight to it. So I pick up the phone, he introduces himself, and he says, all right, I just want to start off with a 15-minute code challenge, and we'll move on with the interview from there. As you guys know, if you've been following my channel, I spent 10 weeks in coding bootcamp learning Java. So we focused heavily on backend. We did do some front-end stuff, but it was not the focus of my bootcamp. So with that being said, I do not have a very strong grip of JavaScript, but I had 15 minutes to solve a challenge that was given to me in JavaScript. You guys see where this is going? I wasn't allowed to actually change the language, and I told him, I said, hey, my strongest language is Java, that I feel most confident in. He's like, oh, don't worry. Do as much as you can. Feel free to look things up in a different tab, and try to make me feel really relaxed and comfortable with it. But it wasn't working, man. So the question that I received involved seeing if I could do math using JavaScript without using any math operators. So no plus sign, no multiplication sign, no division sign, so on and so forth. Let me explain how I knew that this was not going good, and maybe you guys can keep these in the back of your mind when you do a technical interview, to just know that these are signs of when the technical interview is not going your way. Awkward silence was definitely a part of the process, because I was taught that when you're doing a technical interview, you never want it to be silent. You always want to talk through your logic. You always want to talk through what you're thinking. And if you absolutely are unsure of where to start, where to begin, or what to do next, reiterate the question, or feel free to ask questions to the interviewer, so that you don't just look stale and unsure. That if they hired you, they don't want to know that they hired someone who's going to get stuck on a problem and just sit there in their head and not communicate with their team lead, or with other members of their team, or with someone to help them through problems when they don't understand. I didn't do that. Because it was JavaScript, I was struggling with basic things like, does JavaScript have this method? And I'm looking stuff up, but in the process of looking stuff up, I'm looking up things that he doesn't want me to use. So I'm looking up methods that can replace me having to use the math operators. He's like, oh, methods won't help here. You're not gonna use any methods. You don't need to use methods to solve this. So that sucked, and then I go back to the drawing board and I get into my head and I start overthinking. I'm afraid to make a mistake, so I'm afraid to actually type too much, because I don't want him to think that I'm just kind of BSing my way through the interview. So I didn't really do a lot of typing. I tried to really rationalize things through in my head, but the pressure of time was not good, which he kept reminding me. He was counting down the minutes, which made it very, very uncomfortable. It definitely made my nervousness rise hearing 6 minutes left, all right, we're down to 5 minutes. And then you see where you are in the problem, and you know that you haven't solved very much of it. And it's very discouraging. And then another way that you might know that the interview is not going good is if they're giving you lots of hints. What I realized is that hints are not bad, so don't mistake what I'm saying as that if they're giving you hints, then you're doing poorly. But too many hints might mean that they're starting to doubt your capabilities, which is at least what I picked up. The hints at the beginning were kind of guided hints, and they were more or less like suggestions to give me things to consider in my mind as I was thinking through the problem. But as I think he started realizing that I was a little bit more confused than he probably thought, then the suggestions started becoming a little frustrated, and it felt like he was sort of pushing me towards the answer without giving me the answer. But it's almost like he just wanted me to he wanted to click, and he hoped that by saying these things that I would just put 2 and 2 together and just get it and start and just say, oh, I got it, and then just finish typing out. But I was sincerely lost, because I didn't understand how to do math without math operators. I'd never on HackerRank, I'd never been asked to do a question like that. All the technical interviews or practice technical interview questions that I had done in my boot camp, none of them were this computer sciencey, I guess. I know that probably sounds really ignorant, but yeah, man, it was very nerve-wracking. And then it just went really badly. I ended up getting 1 out of maybe 4 or 5 of the problems correct, which was not good, obviously. And from that point, he actually stopped me before my time was up. So I'm pretty sure you can imagine that is definitely not a good sign. I got down to about 3 minutes and he's like, listen, you're not even done with the second one. You're clearly not gonna have time to finish. And it was just this demoralizing feeling. Like when I tell you that for 24 hours after this technical interview, I just went totally into a rut. I had just graduated my boot camp the previous Friday before this technical interview. So this technical interview came the first Monday after I graduated my coding boot camp. So this was not a good way to start off the following week after graduation, because I felt like everything that I thought I knew had just totally been negated. Like none of it mattered. It didn't count. It didn't matter that I did a final project. It didn't matter that I knew how to use APIs, or I had interacted with APIs, and that I could build a database and build full stack applications. Like none of that mattered anymore. I was put into my first real world scenario with an employer and I bombed it. The takeaway from this is that you can't always be 100% prepared for a technical interview, because you don't know what question you're going to get. In my case, you don't even know which language it's going to be in. You might have an idea, and I knew they were looking for a Java developer, and the job I applied for was a junior Java developer. But they gave me the technical interview question in JavaScript. So no matter how many HackerRank problems I did in Java, no matter how much I went back and reviewed my labs or my projects or just basic OOP principles, it really couldn't have helped me too much with this particular problem in JavaScript. And so I would highly suggest that if you do bomb a technical interview, which from what I hear and from the other developers I've talked to who have been doing this professionally for a while, it's almost a rite of passage that at some point you're gonna fail a technical interview. And it just happens. And so that has to be something that drives you, that motivates you to go back to the drawing board, to go back to the basics, to learn and practice and continue to practice the most fundamental basics of your language or of OOP or whatever your speciality is. It's gonna make you go back to the fundamentals, which is really the best foundation you can have as a developer, is doing the fundamentals. So can't beat yourself up. I hope this story has kind of helped somebody out there. If you're getting over a rejection, or if you failed a technical interview, or if you're going into a first technical interview or one of your first technical interviews, I really hope this gives you guys some inspiration, because again, like I've been there and it's not a good feeling, but it has to be what motivates you to pass that very next one. And the next opportunity you get, it has to drive you to be like, you know what? Next person to give me a technical interview, I'm gonna kill it. So yeah, guys, that's my story about failing my first technical interview. I really hope that it helps somebody out there. If you guys like this, please feel free to like, share, subscribe. It really helps with the growth of this channel. It really helps keep me encouraged to keep making videos for you guys. Leave me some comments down below. Let's talk. Tell me about some experiences you guys have had. I'm curious to hear about that. And I'll check you guys out in the next video, all right? Peace.